Barcelona is the closest thing Formula One has to a lie detector test. The long corners find every flaw in your aerodynamics. The heat destroys your tyre management. The straights expose your power unit. And on Sunday, it delivered some genuinely brutal verdicts. From a two-time world champion calling his own car the worst on the grid, to the reigning champion watching the field pull away, to a team whose boss just openly admitted they have no idea when things will get better. We're ranking all 10 teams from worst to best based on what the Spanish Grand Prix actually revealed. Starting at the back. 18 months ago, the order at the front seemed settled. Mercedes was going to dominate the new era. McLaren would fight them. Ferrari were rebuilding. Red Bull were managing a transition. That still might be true. But Barcelona had a way of shaking everything up. Some teams confirmed what we already knew about them, and a few quietly revealed something that changes the picture entirely. Let's go through all 10. Fernando Alonso qualified last, 22nd of 22, out-qualified by his own teammate for the first time in 42 races. And when the media asked him if Barcelona had exposed any of Aston Martin's weaknesses, he looked almost offended by the question. "Nothing has been exposed," Alonso said. "We knew we have the worst car and the worst engine. We've been very clear in every race so far that we have to work." That's not spin. That's a two-time world champion telling you, with complete exhaustion, that there is nothing left to hide. Aston Martin retired both cars on Sunday. They are waiting for a summer upgrade package, a new aerodynamic kit, and a Honda engine step that they hope will transform the car in one go. Until that arrives, probably 4 or 5 races from now, they are racing for results they cannot achieve. Alonso is too good a driver for this to be his F1 epitaph, but in Barcelona, there was nothing to be done. Williams arrive in Barcelona every year with something to prove, because this circuit should suit them. Long corners reward downforce. Tyre management rewards patience. And in qualifying, Carlos Sainz did a reasonable job to reach Q2. But in the race, the picture fell apart very quickly. Sainz ended up 11th. Alex Albon wasn't even classified. He was 8 laps off the pace after pitting multiple times with a car problem. The Williams was degrading faster than almost anything else on the grid on Sunday, which confirmed what the data had been suggesting in practice. Their tyre management under race conditions in the heat simply isn't there yet. They're not slow in the sense that Aston Martin is slow, but in the conditions that Barcelona actually presented, they were slower than they needed to be. Austria will be a very different circuit. We'll see if the problem follows them. Here's the thing about Cadillac that everyone is slowly realising. They're genuinely, honestly competitive for the first 15 laps of a stint, and then something breaks, or degrades, or goes wrong. In Barcelona, Valtteri Bottas was running in the points before the team pulled him into the garage as a precaution. Sergio Perez finished 14th, out of the points but still running, which is actually an improvement in reliability terms. Cadillac is in just its 7th F1 weekend. They are learning faster than anyone predicted. The pace is real. The consistency in the race distance management is not there yet. The gap between what they can do in a short burst and what they can sustain over 66 laps is still enormous, and at the pace of a high-degradation circuit like Barcelona, that gap gets punished. This is still a genuinely exciting new team. They just need more races under their belt. Ollie Bearman had the kind of weekend that would have broken a lesser driver's confidence. He qualified 15th, managed the first stint reasonably, got a good stop under the VSC on lap 41, and then was forced to retire a handful of laps from home with what Haas described as a reliability issue. It was his second retirement in a row. His teammate Esteban Ocon at least made it to the finish, 13th, which sounds better than it was, because Ocon triple stopped, burned through 3 sets of tyres and was racing at the back the entire afternoon. Haas summed it up themselves in their post-race notes. "This weekend the car wasn't quick enough, and operationally we weren't good enough." That's the whole story. Bearman is a talented driver stuck in a car that's not delivering. He's keeping his composure. But 2 retirements in a row tests patience, and Barcelona had no answers. Alpine are the most confusing team in the midfield, and Barcelona made that more confusing, not less. Both cars finished in the points, Gasly 7th, Colapinto 8th on the road before a 10-second penalty dropped him to 10th for not respecting yellow flags. On the surface, that's a solid double points finish. But dig into the race pace and the picture gets more complicated. Alpine used team orders mid-race to move Gasly past Colapinto and extract maximum points from the situation. That kind of internal management only becomes necessary when you're operating at the margins, not when you have pace to spare. Their qualifying pace puts them in the midfield mix. Their race pace is always fighting to hold on. That gap between Saturday and Sunday is a structural problem. Until they fix it, they will always need perfect circumstances to turn a good qualifying position into meaningful points. Racing Bulls qualified 8th with Liam Lawson, their best qualifying of the season, a full second and a half ahead of everything behind them in the midfield. On the road on Sunday, they crossed the line in 9th and 10th, which was elevated to 8th and 9th after Colapinto's penalty. On paper, that looks clean. In reality, they spent the entire race holding position rather than making ground. Racing Bulls were the fastest midfield qualifier on Saturday. But they weren't the fastest midfield team in the race. Their long-run pace doesn't match their single lap speed, and teams like Alpine and Haas were applying pressure throughout. Arvid Lindblad, the rookie, delivered another composed performance. Lawson's future at the team is a conversation that's been running all season. What Barcelona showed is that the pace is there. The racecraft and the race pace need to follow it. After 4th in Barcelona, Max Verstappen stood in front of the media and said something you almost never hear from him. I think in general, we're still the 4th fastest team. So it's not really going to change on any of the upcoming tracks, unless of course you bring performance. Because we're not going to solve it by just changing the setup. That's a remarkably clear-eyed statement from a 4-time world champion. Verstappen is 4th in the race. He says the team is 4th fastest. He says there's no quick fix. He's telling you exactly where Red Bull is, and he's telling you it won't change until the upgrade packages arrive. The RB22 is fighting at high degradation, high energy circuits, which is exactly what Barcelona is, and struggling. Ishaq Hadjar finished 6th in the second car, which is genuinely solid, and shows the car isn't hopeless. But Verstappen has made the gap to the front very clear. He's not pretending. He's waiting for upgrades. And in Formula One, that's sometimes the most honest position you can take. On paper, McLaren had a decent Barcelona. Lando Norris finished 3rd on the podium. Oscar Piastri finished 5th. Double points, no reliability issues, a clean weekend. The scoreboard doesn't show the problem. The gap does. Norris crossed the line 23 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. 23 seconds in a 66-lap race, on a circuit McLaren had tested extensively and knew well, and Norris himself explained why, with a quote that should genuinely alarm McLaren fans. "We're lucky that Ferrari doesn't have a better engine at the minute. If they had a better engine, they're dominating. They're the class of the field in terms of cornering performance. We're not even close to them. If they make improvements on the engine side, then they'll embarrass everyone." That's the defending world champion, in his own words, saying his car is not even close to the pace leader. And the gap between Norris and Piastri is its own concern. Piastri finished 30 seconds further back with no public explanation from the team. McLaren are 3rd in the constructors. They got a podium. But the honest picture from Barcelona is a team that is losing ground, not gaining it. Hamilton won by 20 seconds on a circuit where Ferrari had an 8-part upgrade package that the team said worked better than they hoped. What Barcelona showed is that Ferrari's chassis is legitimately the best on the grid right now. Their cornering speed, their tyre management in the heat, their ability to extend stints further than anyone else, it all showed up on Sunday. Hamilton set the fastest lap of the race. He drove away from a field that included 2 Mercedes and 2 McLarens on a circuit that should be hard for Ferrari given their engine deficit. And the championship maths moved significantly. Antonelli's lead was cut from 68 to 41 points, with Hamilton now in second. The question isn't whether Ferrari can win races now. Norris answered that question. The question is whether the engine upgrades are coming, and when. Because if the chassis that Hamilton described as the best he'd driven in years gets a power unit to match, the rest of 2026 looks very different. Mercedes should have won Barcelona. George Russell was on pole. Kimi Antonelli qualified third. They had pace in every session. They had the best power unit on the grid. And then they lost the race to a Ferrari three-stop gamble they didn't respond to fast enough. Then watched Antonelli retire with an electrical failure with 3 laps to go, right after he'd overtaken Russell for second. 2 retirements in recent races for Antonelli. The championship leader now on multiple power unit elements, a points lead that's 41 instead of what might have been 80. Mercedes is still the team to beat. The W17 is the fastest combination of chassis and power unit in the field. But the reliability question that's been building all season got louder in Barcelona. Russell, speaking after the race, called it a big concern. The team admitted they may have cost themselves the win by letting their drivers race each other at the wrong moment. Those are the mistakes of a team that's slightly too comfortable in first place. Austria will tell us whether they've fixed the reliability. If they haven't, Ferrari, with 2 engine upgrades expected through the FIA's ADUO process, is going to keep closing the gap. That's the full picture from Barcelona. Aston Martin waiting for summer. Williams managing tyres they can't protect. Cadillac impressive for 15 laps at a time. Haas burning through reliability. Alpine fast on Saturday, complicated on Sunday. Racing Bull's the best midfield qualifier but can't quite convert it. Red Bull 4th and Verstappen saying so himself. McLaren on the podium but 23 seconds away from the win. Ferrari with the best car on the circuit, and Mercedes with the title lead, a reliability concern, and a rival that just proved it can win. The season goes to Austria in 2 weeks. Different circuit, different tyre behaviour, different conditions, and a Mercedes that needs to answer a question about whether Sunday was a blip or a pattern. What's your verdict on where each team is right now? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe for more breakdowns like this every race weekend.